Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're going to be taking a look at a very exciting new prototype that has some very unique features to it, and this here is none other than the Mr. Designs Ronin. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length of 7.2 inches, a blade length coming in at 3 inches, and a blade width of 982 thousandths. Blade thickness on this guy is a beefier 150 thousandths with a blade material of M390 with a HRC of 60 or higher. A blade style of, obviously, as you can see, a Tonto style blade shape with a very nice Riot compound grind, which we'll talk a little more about when we get to the blade. A handle length coming in at 4.2 inches with a handle thickness at 512 thousandths. A handle width coming in at 850 thousandths. And a handle material of aluminum with a titanium inlay. Rather unique setup. You don't see a lot of those, but I gotta say, I kind of like where they're going with this in terms of weight. Aluminum is obviously a more lighter material than titanium, so it kind of makes sense to have aluminum and titanium in the inlay to help save a little on that weight. Locking mechanism is an integral frame lock. I've been thinking, and I was trying to look back, but then I have so many videos and not enough time. I don't think I've ever reviewed an integral knife on this channel. So very nice to have one of these. If I may have had one before in the past, but I don't remember. Nonetheless, very nice, interesting construction here. Very different than the average build. And there's a lot of perks to an integral frame lock, which we'll talk a little more about as we get into the handle. The user is a right-hand tip-up only carry with a weight coming in at 2.85 ounces, which, considering this is, all aluminum, titanium, obviously M390, there's no G10, there's nothing light on this, but it's still a lighter knife, which I really like a whole lot. And this is a design from the creative mind of Mihai from Mr. Designs. And I gotta say, I am really digging the lines and just the overall aesthetics on this knife. It's very pleasing to the eye. Now, when we get into the price, there's a couple things around this knife that are very important to know regarding price and how to get one. The Kickstarter price for this is $365 to $370, depending on what type you go with. There's the all black, there's an all, kind of the raw, just silver, steel color, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to range from $365 to $370. And then retail is going to be $370 to $375, but that's only if it makes it through the Kickstarter. Mihai funds his projects in what I think is a very economically smart way, because he's not a major manufacturer. He's, at this point, not yet one of those massive names in the knife industry to where you don't quite have the funds to just make a run of knives that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So this is a Kickstarter. Now, I personally have purchased from a Kickstarter before and had no issues whatsoever. And I think it's very important to let everyone out there know what a Kickstarter is, because odds are I think there's a good chance that vast majority of you have not ordered from a Kickstarter and maybe you don't know what it is. So here, let's take a look at some keynotes on a Kickstarter, because this is very important about this project. If you get involved with a Kickstarter, no one gets charged any money at all if and until the project is both funded and the date ends. So we'll touch on that just a little more as we get down here. If the project doesn't get funded, then nobody gets charged, so no refunds are even necessary. So if there's a link below, if you click that link to the Kickstarter and you get in on this Kickstarter, you don't pay a penny until it is guaranteed that this knife is going to production. So there is absolutely zero risk involved. Very, very important to know. Now, as I said earlier, the production of all Mr. Designs will only happen if the project is fully funded. As of right now, we have 17 days left, starting today, and it's basically all or nothing. So if this project does not get fully funded, it's not going to happen. And it's going to be a shame if it doesn't happen, because as I go through this review, you're going to find out that this is a pretty damn nice knife. So the price, some people think the price is a little high. It's an integral frame lock. That has a lot to do with it. But overall, It's a very, very nice knife. And if you want to see it, if you like it, if you plan on buying one in the future and you just tell yourself, oh, well, I'll just wait till they, till they hit retail, you can't do that. You just can't do that. If you want one of these knives, you got to get in on it. You got to get on the Kickstarter. So there's no waiting. And I know some people don't like waiting, but it's very important sometimes. And personally, I am a fan of pre-ordering in Kickstarters. It guarantees me a knife. It takes away all the worry and stress of having to try and hop on and get one before it sells out. It's a more relaxed way of doing it for the buyer, and it's a much more relaxing, less stressful way of doing it for the designer. So it really is a win-win, and it's very important that I think everyone knows what a Kickstarter is, because there's no risk involved, and it's just a good way to get a great knife. You just gotta wait a little longer. So that's what a Kickstarter is. And like I said, that link is below. So if you want one of these, hop on there right after this video and get yourself set up for one, because what we have here is a very nice, I would venture to say like a tactical gentleman's carry almost. And some people don't like that term, tactical gentleman's carry, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. To me, it does, because there's some really sleek aspects of this that I think make a good gentleman's knife, clean. And then there's also obviously some very tactical aspects of this knife. So I personally think it works. If you don't, let me know in the comments. But regardless, here's some knives for size comparison. We have the Civivi Elementum, and we have the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. As you can see, pretty decent size comparisons there. I got a couple more for you here. We have the Hogue Deca, and we got one more being, what do I want to go with here? Let's go with the Pair 3. I was going to grab the Bug Out, but the Bug Out and Deca are just too similar. It's kind of pointless to put them both on a size comparison table. So there you go. There's some size comparisons, very much in that nice medium, small to medium range, and just does very nice knife to throw in the pocket. Now, before we get totally into this blade, let's talk about the name, because the name with this knife is, it's kind of funny to me. It's not a funny name in general, but it's funny to me because we also have a family dog named Ronin. So I have a little more insight to the name of Ronin. And in ancient Japan, Ronin is actually referred to as a masterless samurai, basically warriors who were social outcasts. And it's kind of funny because my dog Ronin actually, or our dog Ronin, our family dog, he actually just showed up on our doorstep one day completely randomly. And it was a long story after that, but he ended up becoming a member of our family, which was just one of the best things that ever happened to us. So anyway, there's a little background on the name of Ronin, and you definitely get some samurai vibes from this. I do, at least. The Tanto blade, the sleek way it kind of carries into the handle, the way the handle wraps down, and fits into your hand just as comfortable as a samurai sword. It really does feel great. But when you get into this blade, you see a very aggressive and extremely slicey and hardworking Tanto with behind the edge readings of 14 thousandths on the belly here. And being a compound grind, you have two different types of grinds. A very nice, deep Riot hollow grind on the belly here, which I always try to show it, and I feel like that's always a failure, but we'll just stay consistent here. 14 thousandths behind the edge on the belly area here, and then up towards the tip, you have a reading of a slightly thicker 22 thousandths, but it's supposed to be like that because that is a flat grind, and this tip is meant to go to work. And I tell you what, it's a very nice stabilized tip. That 150 thousandths here, try and get it to focus. The way it comes to the tip makes for a very slicey tip, but also a very stout, strong tip. So excellent blade design and geometry on this guy. And aesthetically, I just really enjoy everything about this blade, and I really like this blade cutout here. Now, there's a little more to know about this when we get to the action portion, but as you can see, it just fits in really well with the blade, and it doesn't raise the blade, it doesn't pull anything, it doesn't give it any weird vibes, it just sits in there very comfortably and is still very useful. So overall, an excellently executed blade, with all the aesthetics you need and want in one, and also with an edge that is ready to go to work. Now, going into the handle and ergos, we have ergos that are very nice, extremely smooth overall. No real issues with that whatsoever. I really like how the handle ends down here. It's smooth. There's no pointy spots. However you hold this in your hand, you're not going to feel any aggressive agitation in your palm. Nothing working up a blister. Nothing even so much as a little unnecessary, uncomfortable feeling hand. It's just on point in terms of ergos. And I really like the texture on these titanium inlays. Very, very nice. Plenty enough to give you a grip on the handle, and it just feels very nice. The quality of the milling is extremely well done, well executed, and of course with Riot, that transition line from the inlay to the handle is seamless. Obviously you can kind of see the seam, but that is more so because it's obviously an integral frame lock, and it's a metal to a metal, so yeah, you can obviously see it, but with the black on black, it blends in well, and it just works extremely good overall. I also like the satin pivot collar pop. It's a really nice accent to the all black, and works well with the edge of the knife. And again, these are a lot of just aesthetic points, but when you're putting this kind of money down on a knife, you want it to be aesthetically on point, and everything about the knife really should be on point at this price level. So there's a lot of nice little details that are worth pointing out on this knife. Now, in terms of the pocket clip, it actually works great. There's really no functional issues I have with it whatsoever. The OCD in me kind of wishes it would go straight up the middle of the handle all the way. So if this tip like came over a little just like that, but again, that's just my ridiculous attention to detail and OCD. But at the end of the day, in terms of ergos, in terms of in and out of the pocket, you have definitely enough clearance there to get over pretty much any type of hem, unless you got some really super thick jeans. Maybe you'll have some struggles there, but I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be too bad for anybody. I've worn it in 3 different pairs of pants now with no issues at all. And I also kind of like how this clip is bowed just a little here at the very, very slightest amount, as you can see there. And I think that does help just a little in terms of how it feels in hand, because you're feeling, with it being bowed a little like that, you feel a little more at this part and not so much at the end of the tip. So again, one more of those little nice details they put to just boost those ergos just a hair. The lock bar access getting into the knife is absolutely flawless. Very easy, very smooth, very nice action to bring that blade down. And in terms of the handle, the integral handle, it's awesome. In terms of disassembly, it's very easy. You just undo the pivot and the blade comes out, and yeah, not too much to do there. You also would, I'm assuming you probably take off the inlays here to help get to it. But this knife is 100% designed to take apart, to service, to lube, to clean. Good to go there. Obviously, this is all just enclosed. This is one piece of aluminum here. So what you want to do is, just a little compressed air or a Q-tip, anything to clean it out in there. But as you can see, it's not dirty because it's a pretty clean prototype. But no, overall, an extremely solid handle design. You can't get any more of a solid handle than you get from an integral. That's one of the biggest perks from an integral handle, is just that it is an absolute tank. And as you can see on here, one of the big things that I always look for is the blade centered. And as you can see, you wouldn't expect anything less with Riot, but the blade is centered absolutely perfectly. And by that, I do mean perfect. You couldn't make this any better. So flawless centering, very well done job there. And when you get into the action is really, really, really good now, but it's only going to get better because they are making a slight change if and before this knife goes to production, and that lies in the front flipper tab here. As you can see, there's jimping up here. And at the end of the day, it is just kind of okay jimping. It doesn't quite give the traction that I want and look for. But Mihai did confirm before I even took the knife out of the package that this is going to be addressed, and you're going to have a much more favorable style of jimping for a front flipper, something to where the edges don't round off, they just go straight through, and they're maybe even a little more deeper. But the jimping is definitely going to be addressed, and as you can see in my review here, it's still very doable to front flip it. You just put a little more pressure on the top, and I gotta say, I still, even if they didn't change it, I don't know if this is something it's something I would point out, but it's something that I could still get along with. But it's very nice to know that there is going to be improved jimping on the final production model, and that will be very nice. As it is right now, this one is not reach around approved because the jimping just isn't quite at that level. But with the improved jimping, who knows? But at the end of the day, it's made as really, I'm saying front flipper, but it really is more of a top flipper, front flipper. I think some people refer to that as the same, but still a very accessible, very enjoyable top flipper action. And the blade cutout here. Let's talk about this blade cutout because, first of all, look at my middle finger. You see this is actually probably the most nail I have on my middle finger at any given time. And yeah, it's easy to get to. If you don't have any nail at all, you can still kind of just push your middle finger fat in there and give it a little flip and it comes out. You got to get used to it, but it does work surprisingly well. That was good. Before I even pulled this knife out of the package, I had seen a picture of it, and I was just telling myself, well, that blade cutout is going to be pretty useless. And no, I am quickly corrected there. Very easy. At the end of the day, if you're used to front flick or used to middle finger flicking, this really is not that hard at all. I have handled numerous knives that were harder to middle finger flick than this. So not a whole lot of issue there in the middle finger flicking department. And I know that's a big thing for a lot of people. It's a very nice combo to have. The top flipper / front flipper along with a blade cutout for middle finger flicking. It's very nice. And this one, it does not disappoint. It really is solid in the action category. Super smooth. And yeah, no gripes there. No gripes whatsoever, outside of course, the jimping, but like I said, already going to be addressed. So what do we have here? We have a very nice knife. Definitely a higher end knife in terms of price, but at the end of the day, with the quality, the construction, the materials, you get what you pay for, guys. And that in terms for an integral at that price point, it is a fair price. I don't have any issue with it. And this is a knife that I would absolutely recommend. And I really hope it does make the Kickstarter because again, I don't say this a lot about a knife in general. Sometimes I'll say it about the handle or the blade. But again, this is a very unique design. And you know, anymore nowadays, you can look at just about every knife. I was just talking about this with another knife with someone else on Instagram. There's so many designs out there. You can look at almost any design and say, oh, well, this looks like that and that, or this looks like that. You can always find another knife to compare it to in terms of aesthetics. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just kind of it's just the nature of the beast when you can have so many designs and the industry grows and the hobby keeps getting more and more popular, more designs keep coming out. It's hard to find a very unique knife, and you have that here. You really do. You have overall an extremely unique design paired with an integral handle construction, premium materials from a top-notch manufacturer. So there's not a whole lot to go wrong with this. Nothing, in my opinion. It's a very nice knife and one that if you want, you got to hop on that Kickstarter. You got to get involved. You got to get involved now and make it happen. And let's do it. Let's bring this to retail because it is a phenomenal design, one that I highly recommend, and one that I hope to see in a lot of hands in the future. The Mr. Designs Ronin. Guys, let me know what you think of this. Really hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.